All right, we're here. We're back again in the iLoveKC studios. Today we have Vince. He's with Apex. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So my name is Vincent Arguelles. I've been in real estate now for going on 5 years now. I got licensed in late 2019. Was part-time 2020, and then that's when I went full-time. Was in October of 2020. My background's always been in marketing or sales. Right out of high school, I went to the community college where I'm from, and actually started working at the car dealership in my hometown, or one of the car dealerships in my hometown. And from there, I went to school at K-State and started working at a car dealership there, actually as a sales and finance manager. And moved here to Kansas City after feeling like I was the oldest person living in Manhattan, which at 25, it sure felt that way.
Right.
So moved to Kansas City, kind of got oversold on a job here with a dealership. Ended up hating it.
Yeah.
Just like one of the guys that trained me at the first dealership I worked at passed away. He ended up committing suicide, and part of it was because he was being pushed out of the dealership.
Right.
There's just no loyalty there, and I wanted a business that I could control. And it was one of those things where it kind of like set off an alarm in my head of like, Sean was this Mr. Calculated, like, his batteries were organized, his icons on his desktop were organized. He was just super like by the book, and just to see somebody who had trained me.
Yeah.
He was the general manager of a dealership that he oversaw 3 rooftops. Yeah. And he took his time to train me at 19 years old when I was like this new kid. I was the youngest person I'd ever hired.
Right.
So it kind of like started ringing these alarms in my head. And actually, like, it's one of those things where I think about him from time to time, because it's like, I think about how momentous that was, like his time to come and like train this new kid. And I think he saw a little bit of himself in me, if I'm being honest.
Right.
So like I said, I was working in Overland Park at a car dealership, just was kind of in a miserable spot. And a guy that I went to high school with, one of my best friends, ended up working for a medical group, and they had a marketing position opening. I was like, okay, so let me go give it a shot. So I showed up to the interview, and it's like a panel interview. And it was so funny because I was so nervous because I felt so underqualified for this position, even though like in terms of sales and marketing, I would be able to outsell any of these people, right?
Right.
And so we get to the interview, and it's, they have us get up and introduce ourselves, and like why, we think would be a good fit for the position. Well, everybody in the row gets up and is just like talking at the 2 doctors that are standing there. And I said, well, if you guys don't mind, would you guys get up if I could present to everybody and like talk to everybody? And they're like, not at all. I said, okay. So I turned up there and I'm like, well, hey, I'm Vince, and I went into my whole spiel. And I guess the whole staff was like in the doctor's offices behind like these double-weighted mirrors, just like watching me and just like, oh my gosh. Yeah. And so I left there and I was like, I bombed that. Like, I'm not even in consideration. But sure, lo and behold, my buddy ended up texting me. He's like, they love you.
Yeah.
And I was like, why? And he was like, because you're yourself. And I was like, okay. It was kind of awkward. And I was like, okay. And they ended up calling me like an hour later and offered me like a second interview. And they wanted me to go in and do this and that. So ended up working there for a year and a half, and then transitioned to another medical group, actually. I had the marketing director role, which was cool. I got to oversee, big budgets for marketing spends and lots of social media ad campaigns. And I worked in an area of medicine that's not really talked about, like regenerative medicine or like stem cell therapy.
Yes. Yeah.
A lot of people have heard about like knee replacements because that's covered by insurance, but this is an alternative to that. And it's a cash-based service. So you think about me trying to sell somebody coming in and spending $7,000 on an injection for their knee, and it just, was a feat, right? Yeah. So I did that for a couple of years, and the owners of the medical group knew I had an interest in real estate. Right. And the doctor that oversaw the practice that I worked for, her husband actually was in real estate prior to the real estate crash. And he was like, we know when we hired you, we wouldn't be able to keep you forever. So like, whatever we can do to facilitate. And so they allowed me to go part-time. And so that's when I started doing real estate part-time. And, from there, it's kind of dominoes. Yeah. So cool. Yeah.
Very cool. Well, thanks for coming. I'm excited to play 20 questions and see.
Sorry to go off on such a long tangent. I'm long-winded, as you can tell.
I love it. So, your Instagram, sold by Vince KC.
Yes.
It shows you all over town. If you could only sell in one neighborhood for the rest of your career, which neighborhood would it be, and why does that resonate with you and your brand?
I would have to say the Waldo Brookside neighborhood. I want to combine the two because there's a skewed line there. But and that's where I first landed when I moved here to Kansas City. When I accepted the job to work in Overland Park, I lived in a little 1-bedroom house right behind the Chipotle on Pennsylvania, 7611 Pennsylvania. And I just remember moving in there and thinking, like, this is what city living is all about. Even though that's like suburban Kansas City, like in terms of like, downtown proximity, but like it's one of those things where like I could go walk to a restaurant. Like, I thought that was so cool. Yeah. Coming from a college town, it was a similar thing, but it was like, this is the big city. Yeah. Right.
These are adults doing these things.
Exactly. The day I looked at my house, actually, there was people at Summit Grill and they had the windows open. They were all having brunch and laughing, and I was like, this is my place. These are my people. So Waldo has like a very specific piece of my heart, just because that's where I landed. That's where I kind of came to in Kansas City. It was the roughest year I've ever had. I'm not going to lie to you. Like financially, I struggled going from making good money to not making anything when I moved here. So it was just a big shift in mindset. And then when I was little, actually, my mom, when they moved me into my house there, she was like, Vincent, when you were a little boy, we were driving on Ward Parkway. And you said, Mom, I'm going to live here someday. And to land right there in Waldo. I lived right there off Ward Parkway. Right. Yeah. And she was like, we were driving down to the plaza. She was like, this is like, she goes, it's bringing up a lot of memories. Like, I vividly remember you telling me this. And so it's just kind of like a full circle moment. And I've had a lot of those in my career, especially up to this point. Yeah. So yeah.
Love it. Yeah. I love Brookside. I love Waldo. I think, they're like the quintessential like Kansas City neighborhoods.
Oh yeah. Walkable, lots of businesses there local, and now you're getting a little bit more chains like Medis and Brooksides, and so you're getting some variation there. So it's kind of cool to see older neighborhoods like that get a cool, funky new place.
Right, exactly. So Apex Realty seems like a tight-knit group. What's the most memorable team building activity that you've done, and how does that camaraderie translate to serving your clients?
So we are a tight-knit group. We've gone bigger, smaller, all these different things. We're always kind of ebb and flowing with the market, as you can tell. That's the thing about real estate, is you got to be flexible. So basically, my team started hubbed out of Arizona with Brian, my team leader. Our hub in Arizona, it was started by Ben Reilly, and his younger brother David, when he graduated college, moved here to Kansas City to start operations with Brian. Okay. And how that all started was Ben came out here, and him and Brian drove around and filled up his truck and drove around and looked at neighborhoods and what the opportunities were like here. Right. And that's how it started. And so I got introduced to Brian via Instagram. He told sold by Vince KC. Yeah. And it's one of those things where it's like we actually connected because I had seen I had just moved here. I'd seen a Waldo post and I tagged him. Oh yeah. Or he had tagged a Waldo location. I just looked through his page and see that he's a real estate agent, something I was interested in. So I followed him. We ended up talking about music, and he's like, "Do you rent or do you own?" Yeah. And from there, that's where the conversation skewed. Like, "Oh, I have an interest in real estate," so on and so forth. But like I said, over our time, we've grown team members, and we've kind of back down to 3 now. This year, we're looking to expand that, so we're going to bring on a couple new agents that are struggling in their business or looking for an opportunity to work with well-rounded agents. Totally. My team specializes in investment real estate, so we have a little bit different knowledge of off-market properties and investment real estate. We're just more investment-minded. Right. So our strategies are a little different than an agent's like, oh, I can sell you a duplex. Right. Yeah. So it's tight knit, and we have some big personalities, but we all gel really well most days. Yeah. Right. But yeah, we're a cool team, and how that helps us serve our clients is, like I said, we are investment minded, so we actually have really good relationships with contractors here in the area, and so we're able to facilitate some things that a normal team wouldn't be able to do. Like I had an example of a listing of mine in Waldo. Yeah. Where we actually did an attic conversion to add a bedroom to this house to up the value for the sellers. Nice. And we were able to do that, kind of like no interest, and facilitate the rehab and make it, or the renovation, make it happen, and up the value of their house probably $30,000. Right. So it's just one of those things to where, it's an opportunity that not everybody else has. Yeah, it's a strategy. Yeah. Love it. You see it on TV. It's called, I think, Sell Ugly Houses or something like that on HGTV. Yeah. Kind of a similar thing. But
somewhere you can add some value and get, you know.
Well, make the property more marketable and net our clients more money, and you know, we have a better listing to market, and I'm able to market it to its fullest.
Right, exactly.
So.
Zillow shows some glowing reviews. What's the secret sauce to getting clients to rave about Sold by Vince KC after the deal is done?
So I'm a big believer in people remember 90% of how you make them feel and 10% of what you say, or 10% of what you say, 90% how you make them feel, however you want to verse it. I actually learned that back in my early sales career. I worked with Hyundai.
Oh yeah. And
when they did Equus training, which was their new flagship before it was Genesis, they had trainers come out and they said, we want you to treat every customer like an Equus customer. Well, that's something that I do. You know, when I was in the car business, my conversion rate was pretty high, just because if you walked in the lot and talked with me, I would find a solution for you and you're buying a car. But it was also just because I love people.
Right.
And so I love connecting with people, and that's where I, you know, strive in my business. So everything with me is very personal. From our initial consultation, we'll probably sit down and have coffee. You know, during the home buying process, we'll actually probably go to dinner one time as well, where we're out looking, and we sit down and break bread together. I want to get to know you and your family. You know, I'm a little extra when it comes to closing. I show up with a big basket and I have champagne, and you know, I have a photographer come and we take pictures of the house, and we have glitter, you know, pop things, and it's an experience because people want to be celebrated, and this is a big accomplishment. Yeah. And it's one of those things where those photos have like helped me kind of catapult my business, and it's I don't want to say it's selfish, but it's one of those things where my clients will post it on their social media profiles and tag me, and the next thing I know, I wake up to a friend request or a new follower, and it's such a unique way to meet people, because I want to show that I give my clients an excellent experience. Right.
Well, and I'll tell you, I mean, I think that's so special that you do that for each of these buyers, and that's something that.
Or I do it for the sellers too. Like I had a client of mine that they lived in a house for 43 years.
Oh wow, that's
raised
cool.
Their sons there.
Yeah.
So I got their grandkids together with them before they moved out and closed, and I got a photo of them, and it's kind of a reunition of family. They'd had come to some striving away between the grandkids, but it was brought everyone back together, you know, for this picture in front of the oak tree out front.
See, that's so cool. If Sold by Vince KC was a cocktail served at a swanky restaurant on the plaza, what would be the ingredients and what kind of vibe would it have?
So I'm a tequila person, right? And I typically like a tequila press, which is like Don Julio or Casamigos with a little bit of soda water and a splash of Sprite, just like a you know, little something to sweet stuff, top it off, and then a lemon and a lime. Okay. I don't know what it would be called though. I think it'd be good.
Yeah, it'd have to be something like Vince related, Kansas City related.
It'd be strong, I know that. So, yeah, that's one thing that Kansas City is we're Kansas City strong.
There you go. So Kansas City's housing market is projected to appreciate this year in 2025. How are you positioning your clients to take advantage of that growth?
It's kind of just figuring out their goals, like where they want to end up, and you know, it's meeting your client where they're at. So when I first sit down with a buyer specifically, are we looking for a house that's turnkey? Are we looking for something that we can put some sweat equity into? Are we looking for something that's a complete remodel? You know, what's your scenario? What's your comfort level, right? And what I've actually found myself being really good at doing is finding what I call a grandma special. It's a house with great bones. And I know I sound so cliche saying that, but like, foundation's good. Right. Electrical's in shape. Roof is newer. Windows are probably replaced. Vinyl siding, or, you know, grandma's taking care of the home, she just hasn't updated it. And what's hiding beneath those well taken care of carpets is beautiful hardwood floors. And yes, those cabinets may be wood, but you know, they've been well cared for, and after sanding and some paint with new hardware, they look a lot different. And I'm a big believer in even just small things like light fixtures or you know, things like that, because it makes a big visual impact, and it's amazing what you can do with a little can of paint. Right. Like I've seen some amazing transformations of just like literal paint and some light fixtures that makes a room feel so different. Right. So,
yeah. Love it. So with inventory slightly up, how do you make your listings stand out in a competitive market, ensuring that they don't just sit on the market?
So I'm a little different than a lot of agents. I offer complimentary staging to my clients. It's one of those things where if you're occupying the home, I'm not going to come in here and be like, okay, we have to move all your stuff out and move all my stuff in. No, I'm going to do kind of an in-place stage, right? So I'm going to suggest, moving this furniture, taking this down. We need to declutter this, size this down. And you have to kind of think of it like pre-packing, right?
Yeah.
You're going to have to pack it in 30 days. Why not just pack it now, And honestly, it makes your home feel bigger. We want to sell visual space, right? I am big on video marketing as well. Like, I'm going to do an agent intro. I'm going to show off the neighborhood. I'm going to talk about all the features of your home because that's what's important. That's my job as an agent. And then, of course, in this market, I feel like agents have gotten a little lazy with like not wanting to host an open house or something like that. Well, you have to think about it. If you were the listing agent for this listing, you were going to be the best advocate for it. And right, listing on Gregory, for instance, we came to market the Friday or the Thursday. When was that? It was right before the election. Yeah. Right? It was it was just like a weird time in real estate, right? Because everybody's up and down, right? And we ended up sitting in the market for a week. And so I hosted an open house there, first weekend on market, and the buyer walked through, and I said, the vibes are immaculate, aren't they? And she immediately, you could see it in her face. And it was one of those things where it's like, I was able to answer all of her questions right there on site. I was knowledgeable. Like I said, I'm setting the scene. I have the candle burning, the music going, all the lights on. They have an LED sign over their music. I had that on. So it's just like, I'm setting the tone, right?
Right.
And of course, like I said, it's our little back and forth while they were looking through the house that I feel like really kind of like solidified it for her, because I was like, you could just see it on her face. Does that make sense?
Totally.
And so she was actually unrepresented. She ended up bringing me in an agent before we ended up going under contract. But it was one of those things where it's like, she followed me on Instagram. Yeah. She thinks I'm cool. We still communicate. It's not like it's anything weird, but it's just like, I feel like if I wasn't there that day, that house might have not sold.
Right, exactly.
So I'm going to be active in this market.
Yeah, I love it. So the South Loop project, you've heard of that, right?
Yes, I have.
It's set to boost property values. How are you educating potential buyers, and homeowners, on the long-term investment potential in the area?
Well, I think downtown and Crossroads have always been a growing area here in Kansas City. I think adding some intentional green space where people feel like they can get a little bit more of like a park feel in the middle of the city is going to increase the livability to downtown, especially like for dog lovers. Like, don't get me wrong, we have some luxury buildings downtown and they have some little grass patches that you can take your dog to, but it's going to be so different to see a big park. Right. And like I said, this intentional green space is going to be great for kind of softening up how modern right there is on downtown and how historic Crossroads is, I feel like. Yeah. I think it's going to marry the two of like old and new in a sense. Yeah. So I think that's going to be a unique opportunity for us. And I think it's going to be good for property owners in the area because it's going to drive up values.
Totally. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah, that is by far one of the most exciting things coming to Kansas City. Like, it's going to be such a difference to see green space and trees and like a very organic space where there's usually like cars honking and like
just all that noise and all of that mess.
Honestly, I think it'll make like those apartments a little quieter too, not hearing all of that noise from 670.
Totally.
It will be weird going through that tunnel because people don't know how to drive through there as it is.
I know, and it's like this much now. It'll be double that, if not more.
I'm just hoping to keep the lighting good. And like, they need to alleviate those where lanes converge, like where you're coming from like 70.
You need to get on 71, and you got to go across all four.
Well, that way, or like for instance, like if you're coming off of 70, like I-70, and coming up that way, and you're coming in from downtown, that those two lanes converge.
Oh yeah.
And it's just like on 35 North. It's just the most awkward spot. Yeah. So it's just,
you
hope they figure that one out.
You gotta be ready for it whenever you get there. So homes in Kansas City are relatively affordable as compared to, the rest of the nation, right? What strategies do you use to help first-time home buyers navigate the market and build wealth through real estate?
Well, like I said, it's kind of identifying what their needs are, right? For instance, the Missouri side, if they're comfortable being on the Missouri side, or that's where they want to be, I should say, there's a lot of different programs out there available for first-time buyers, like MHDC, where they'll either A, buy down their interest rate or use it, or two, they'll give you a down payment grant.
Mm-hmm.
In my eyes, I'd rather take the interest rate buy down just because it's a really prime rate right now compared to what we're seeing in the market.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where it's a conventional program. It allows us to go in and not have to worry about FHA or so on and so forth. And it's a little bit more of a stronger product when I put it on paper.
Totally.
In theory, right, to a listing agent.
Right.
On the Kansas side, I think it's just all about being a little flexible and figuring out like what are most important. Like I say in real estate, you can buy on these three things: location, condition, and price. Right. Especially in a hot market like Johnson County.
Right.
It's an area where you've seen over average appreciation over the last decade.
Right.
It's been a seller's market there, and you're talking about an area of our city or of our area where the average sales price is $400,000+. So you're not talking about the average first time buyer or average starter home at that point.
Right.
So it's one of those things where I think it's about being flexible and not having like I have to have 20 things. Okay, if I tell my buyers, if you have a list of 7 or 8 things, if it has 5 of those things or 4, we just need to go look at it.
Right. Right.
Because for say that you're a landscaping person and you want a patio or a deck, this house doesn't have one. Well, that's a great value add for you.
Right.
And that's sweat equity. Like you can put in landscaping, you can have somebody come build a deck or pour a patio. Like that's a manageable project. What I don't want you to have to do is replace an HVAC system you're not going to see.
Right. Exactly.
So yeah.
Love it. So what's the biggest misconception that people have about working with a realtor in today's market?
That's a hard question. Biggest misconception about working with a real estate agent. All of us are not created the same.
Right.
I want to be very clear to you guys that there are agents that are just going to tell you what you want to hear versus when I sit down with my buyers at our initial consultation and we do a needs analysis, I say, what are 3 things you need from me as an agent? And that's where they're going to say, oh, I need, honesty and this and, whatever they other. Well, I'm going to need to be able to be honest with you because you're going to see what I'm thinking about that house the moment I walk in it. It's going to be all over my face. And I tell that to my clients like very often, kind of like, haha. But it's truthful. Like when we walk into a house, most of my clients are like, oh, you really don't like this one, do you? And I'm like, it's just like certain things alarm me as an agent, especially one that's seasoned like myself. Foundation, roof, HVAC, mechanicals, whatever it may be. Or if I'm going into it knowing that this is probably over what my client can handle, anyways, it's one of those things where it's like I've had to, how do we start the question? Sorry.
Misconceptions about
real estate. So we're all not the same. So like I said, that's one of those things with me is I want to make sure that I'm being completely honest with my clients.
Yeah.
And of course, colleagues that I work with, we do a lot of business here in Kansas City. We are more seasoned veterans or have seen more transactions than, somebody right out of the gate. Not saying that I wasn't there once either, but my background has always been in sales and marketing and negotiation. So I've always been able to negotiate for my clients. And as I've gained more experience in real estate, it's up my knowledge of construction. Like I've worked with clients now through multiple new builds. My uncle is a custom home builder and my parents did a new construction home. So I did it from initial design when it was a blank lot all the way to finish,
Yeah.
And so that's just something that doesn't come with, just taking a class to be a real estate agent.
Right.
Like you need to work with somebody who's well qualified, who has deep connections in this area. And of course, even working with a more experienced agent or an agent that knows what they're doing, you're going to have more opportunity. So we can find you an off-market opportunity. We have our network of agents that we work with all the time that say, hey, I have a listing that, the people don't want to bring it to market. Do you have anybody looking in this area? And that happens all the time.
Yeah.
So it's just all about working with the right agent. Not to say that a new agent can't get the result or get the work done. It's just what is their lack of time cost you,
right?
In terms of what the latent effect might be,
right? Totally. Well, and I like what you said too about kind of being prepared on the front end. Setting expectations on the front end and knowing, this is where we're headed and this is how we're going to.
Well, sure. Like when we walk through a house with a client of mine and I'm seeing ungrounded outlets, and I'm pointing all those out to my clients. There's things that the inspector is going to point out. I'm going to say this to my client, and while we're walking to the house, and then of course when the inspector, mirrors me and says, "Oh, well, this is, your agent was correct," or not that I'm saying I know, I'm not a certified engineer, but
right.
I've just known from looking at so many homes of what's scary, what's not scary, what's
right.
solvable, what's not, or what the what the range is there in terms of difficulty, I should say.
Right.
So it's just
well,
one of
like
those-
knowing your client too.
Yeah.
Knowing
exactly.
this is your first time and you've never done anything
Correct.
home ownership related.
Correct.
That's a different client than somebody who's, owned a home for 10, 15, 20 years, whatever.
Correct.
Or built a house or
Who has like acumen,
in an
apartment. Yeah.
Mhm. So yeah, that's cool. Knowing your client is so important.
Yeah. And like I said, I don't have much of a poker face when I walk through a house, but on the negotiation, nobody's going to beat me.
Yeah. So what's the most challenging aspect of being a realtor that no one talks about?
Most challenging part about being a realtor that nobody talks about. I think it's just the fact of our job is really 24/7. Like, I know I probably sound like I'm a broken record saying that, but it is one of those things where clients have a flooded basement. They call us at 9:30 at night. I mean, and we pick up the phone because we care about our people.
Right.
Now, do I set boundaries with my clients? Like, I don't work Sunday afternoons, so on and so forth. Yes. Like, they all know that when we have our consult. But it's one of those things where, I'm always available. I'm always here to help. And I want to be an advocate for my clients, even after the sale. So when the HVAC goes out, call me. I want to connect you with somebody that can probably get the job done a little bit more affordably, or at least make sure that you're getting a good deal on, and that they're doing the job properly.
Right.
Right. Whoever you're consulting with.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you guys work around the clock all the time.
Yeah.
So describe a time that you had to give a client some tough love and how it ultimately benefited them.
I mean, I'm sure there's been I say this all the time, but I'm sure I've talked myself out of sales before.
Yeah.
Because I'm not afraid to walk in there and just say, like, this does not look right. Like, this does not look good. Or this is going to be expensive to fix, and when it's a first time buyer and, it's expensive to buy a home and you're counting your points here and you're like, okay, after I pay for my earnest money deposit, inspections, I put my down payment, I pay my closing cost if I don't get a negotiated.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where it's like, okay, what am I going to have left over? And I don't want you walking into something that's like, okay, you just bought a house, now the HVAC's 30, it's older than me, and it's likely going to go out. Because home warranties can only do so much. They only cover so much. And that's, the fail-safe way an agent will try to, we got you a home warranty. Yeah, but a home warranty's not going to cover a $6,000 or $7,000 HVAC. Right.
Yep.
Or they're going to doctor it along and their energy bills are going to be $300 a month to keep their house cool during the summer. It's not, and like I said, I probably talk a little too much sometimes in terms of that, but I want to make sure my clients are protected.
Well, yeah, and that, again, at the end of the day, that benefits them because they're in a better situation than they would have been had they gotten what they wanted initially.
Well, I mean, I have a client that we're working with together, actually, that we put an offer out on a house, and it was a multiple offer situation. And I told her, I said, I don't feel comfortable on this house with just some of the work you'd have to put in of you going any higher.
Right.
And the contract ended up falling through. The agent called me a week later. Hey, Vince, is your client still interested? We have an inspection report, so on and so forth. And I get this inspection report, and it is miles long. Yeah. And I'm like, because there was a lot of DIY done in the house and stuff like that. And so one of those things to where, I told my client, full transparency here. I don't want you to walk into a house where you're gonna have a bunch of issues. And so she was like, thank you. That's probably, thank you so much. Like, thank you for being honest with me.
Right.
So,
Exactly. Love it. So what is one outdated real estate practice that you wish would disappear forever?
Combination lock boxes, like the dial combos. Let's start there. The real estate agents' headshots that are from like 30 years ago.
Oh my God.
Like, don't get me wrong, my headshot on my business card is from like last year.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. The one on my business page is from a few years ago. Don't get me wrong, but I still look similar.
Yeah.
I'm not 30 years older at this point.
Yeah. It's not a shock when I meet you.
Honestly, I'm probably gonna ruffle some feathers by saying this, but I want to get away from the Chat GPT listing descriptions.
Yeah.
They're all the same. They use 3 adjectives and then they describe. They're like, look at this spacious, welcoming, bright living room.
Yeah.
I have a client of mine that moved. She was using an agent know-how to sell a property over there, and she was like, why does this listing description not even sound like this house? That's because he typed in the address, a few things about the house, and asked him to write a listing description on ChatGPT.
Yeah.
And I'm in a mastermind group with some other agents here in town, and I said that and this guy had just went on saying like, oh, like, you know, I love using AI to help me save time, da 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 da. And I understand that some agents aren't as linguistic, you know, but it's one of those things where it's like our job to market the property. I feel like I'm going to do a much better job explaining the property, its features, how it feels in a listing description than a computer that's never seen the property.
Right. I mean, at the very least, tweak it.
Well, yeah, just take out the run-on sentences where it's like 3 adjectives and then kitchen. You know, you're like, okay, what about the kitchen?
Right.
You know, is this what type of cabinets are these? Is this a quartz countertop?
Right.
Is this, you know, what type of backsplash is used? You know, is there designer features? You know, I want to be able to sell that through the listing description just as it would in pictures.
Right.
Because I am a linguistic person, so to me that means a lot.
Yep.
Words mean a lot to me. Love language.
Right.
But it's one of those things where it's like, I just feel like as a professional, that's what I do best. And so it may take me 45 minutes to an hour to write this listing description, but it's going to be solid.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah, exactly.
So.
We kind of hit on this, but it says, what is your favorite hidden gem in Kansas City that you always recommend to newcomers? I mean, this could be outside of real estate, like a restaurant, whatever.
I have a few actually.
Yeah.
So one is a place where we're actually pretty close to right now. It's called Panther's Place. It's a bar.
It's upstairs.
Yeah, literally. It's a bar here on Southwest Boulevard. It's near the crossroads. And it's just a cool, funky vibe. You walk in and there's a big Airstream, and it's like there's lots of plants inside, and it's like literally the you just wouldn't expect it. You know.
Yeah.
So I love Panther's Place. I love No Vacancy. I love going to No Vacancy when they have the lounge open and being able to go meet friends there, because it's just like this like cool little place that, you know, you're never expecting. I love the Russell. Yeah. That's one of my favorite lunch spots. I love to take clients there. Slap, you know, just like our little hidden gems of like the city. Slap is a little bit more well known, but like I'm trying to think of a little gem that nobody. Cliff's Tap House. In Martini Corner. I love that place. My team and I, we go over there for lunch probably once every couple weeks. Like the owner knows us. We have the little punch cards. We get you know, it's just we're regulars.
Love it.
So
love it. So how do you recharge and stay passionate about real estate amidst the ups and downs of the market?
So I'm an introverted extrovert in the utmost of that. Like, I definitely need my time to recharge. So you will see me at home on a Saturday night. Charging. You know, I am a little bit more of a homebody anymore nowadays. I need to change that a little bit and be a little bit more social this year. That's one of my goals.
There you go.
But yeah, I like to spend time with my friends and my family. Like, I get energy from my clients and from my friends. So like, you know, I could be having the worst day ever, and I go meet with a client, and I have to, you know, turn it on, and it turns my whole day around. But yeah, so end of the year, I always take some time off and go visit with family. I'm really good about taking a little trip, typically during the summer as well, just for a few days to get away during busy season. And of course, this year I've taken this last year I should say, I've taken my health and wellness into a big turn of my priorities. So going to the gym and like having my me time there. I had a conversation with a friend / client of mine that, like, you know, I took advantage of being an able-bodied human for too long. I didn't give myself, I wasn't disciplined. Right. And so I allowed myself to get to a place where I wasn't happy. And so it's one of those things where, like, for me, if we have one thing, right? My one thing is, if I get my ass to the gym, I'm having a good day. Okay?
So, I identify with that. If I don't start off at the gym.
You're there at like 5 a.m. I'm there at like 9:30.
There you go.
But I still put the work in. You know,
I love it.
Sweating.
I love it.
Just not at 5
a.m. So what's a skill outside of real estate that surprisingly contributes to your success as an agent?
So outside of real estate, my marketing background. Me being able to use social media to meet with clients. I have a client that actually, we're emailing this morning. She's moving from Texas. She found me via Instagram.
Oh, cool.
It's one of those things where she also has a friend that's going to be moving up from Texas as well. They're going to come up and visit the same time she is. So now it's like, okay, now it's 2 leads from one person. Social media has just kind of always been in my blood. I like showing what I'm doing on a daily basis. If you follow me on Instagram, you're going to see that I'm much more like a POV person. I'm not showing me on there a lot unless I'm making a reel and I'm trying to make you laugh, which, you know, sometimes I have some duds, but, you know, I'm there for the good time. But yeah, so like my marketing background, being able to sell and negotiate effectively,
Yeah,
has always helped me in real estate.
love it. So if you could have any other job for one day, what would it be, and how would you bring that experience back to your business now?
It's funny you say that you asked this question because I was talking with a friend of mine the other day, and I was like, I don't think I can see myself doing anything else.
Right.
I can't go clock in at a 9 to 5 and go sit at a desk. Like my brain doesn't operate that way anymore. It never really has.
Yeah.
If I could do any job, if I could do one job and make it happen, that's a hard question.
It is a hard question.
You should have briefed me. I'm sitting here stumbling and mumbling. I'm normally not at a loss for words. I think for me, I think I'd like to run a massive corporation.
Yeah.
And like for instance, I want to run a major business so I can see what it takes to have all these moving parts.
Right.
A goal of mine this year is I'd like to have a secondary business or some ancillary income coming in. I think it's going to be a cleaning service. If I'm being honest, just because I am a clean freak.
Yeah.
And why not take advantage of that?
Right.
Not that I'm going to be out there necessarily scrubbing toilets, but I want to be able to facilitate my clients getting the best cleaning company to come work at their home. It's going to be safe for their family. And going to have amazing results too.
Right. Right.
So I'd like to run a big company just for a day and just see what all the parts that go into it, and apply that back to growing my small business here in Kansas City.
Right. Totally. So where do you see the Kansas City real estate market in the next 5 years, and what are you doing to prepare for the changes that you foresee?
So historically here in Kansas City, we've always been in a very much seller's market for the last decade. Paying over asking price or seeing multiple offers is not anything new.
Right.
I don't think that will change because Kansas City is growing so much and so rapidly. I think what's going to start changing is the affordability.
Yeah.
And so I think, being on the forefront of what the next most affordable option is for the buyers out there, whether that be in the city or out of town, and being really on the curve of the areas of the city that are growing more rapidly. Yeah. That's something that I've had good luck with my clients in the past, advising them on the South Kansas City corridor or the Red Bridge of, where they could be out on the Missouri side that we've seen really strong appreciation, just like what we've seen in Johnson County.
Right.
Outside of Waldo or Brookside, some of the hot button neighborhoods. So, I think just being on the forefront of what's happening in our city and trying to be on the cutting edge.
Yeah, recognizing that opportunity to say this isn't what it's going to be in 5 years, and I know that. So get in now.
Yeah, well,
and you'll see the benefit.
We just had a closing together to where that was the client's exact thing, is they were wanting to downsize and to go rent because they wanted single level living.
Right.
Well, we talked about renting, about how that still wouldn't lock in their housing costs, because that's what their concern is. Their taxes were going up and all these things.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I was able to educate them and say, hey, well, since you guys are now 62 as of this month and live in Jackson County, you can now lock in your property taxes. So if you buy something, you can lock that in. Of course, I had to educate them as well of a lot of the apartment complexes where you would like to live don't offer where you could drive into a garage and walk into your apartment, or you have to walk quite a ways. So we actually shifted gears from them renting and them buying a little ranch, and they are ecstatic. So
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
I think that's the cool part is I always thought as I drove out to Starlight,
thank you.
As I drive out to Starlight, I see all these homes. I'm like, oh, there's so much potential, and some of these little neighborhoods. I'm like, it'll happen in the next few years.
Yeah.
If I could just tell people this.
Kansas City is what we consider to be a pocket neighborhood kind of community where you're going to see a little bit more deterioration or lack of maintenance, but then you're going to go drive down a block where it looks like there's a lot of pride of ownership and the homes are really well maintained, and it's just one of those things about finding the right pocket sometimes. And of course, Kansas City is growing, and it's one of those things to where there are very few avenues left of affordable housing that you're going to start seeing some of these areas really start changing.
Right.
So,
Exactly. So what is one innovative technology or strategy that you're experimenting with to enhance the client experience?
I would definitely say like social media and my client experience overall. Like I do show up with bells on in the basket. I am extra. It is one of those things where it's like people perceive me to be a lot, I'm sure. However, my clients love me, and that's how I built the champion clients that I have. If they refer me to their friends or family, I become the family realtor.
Right.
And that's because I'm just me.
Yeah.
Just doing all me.
Right.
So.
Well, and I was just sitting with a top producer. She's from Springfield, but she was talking through kind of her experience when she got started, and she said it was like my second year in. I'd had 100 and whatever transactions this year before, and I felt like I was starting from zero the next year. And her mentor asked her, he goes, "What if every single one of your clients from last year referred you one client?" She goes, "Well, I'd be almost done with my goal. I'd only have to find 10 clients." And I said, "Yeah, that's the key." And I feel like that's what I recognize in you whenever I see your process with clients. Is you're making sure that whenever they think of real estate, because so-and-so down the street or their neighbor or their mom or their sister or whoever mentioned, "I think I want to buy, or I want to sell, or I want to list my house, or I just want to know what my house is worth."
Sure.
You're the first thing in their mind.
I think how I want to verbalize or answer your question is I want to verbalize it is, I know I've talked about Instagram and social media, but I use Instagram like a CRM.
Yeah.
I went to a panel this year. I heard another high producing agent here in town that did 50 million this year talk about how she does business, and it's exactly how I operate my business. I'm on Instagram. I see my clients doing landscaping work, right? And I'm like, "Oh, it looks like you need a downspout extender right there." So I'll Amazon them a downspout extender. And I've done that before. I've had clients where their dogs have passed away. I send them a wind chime with their dog's name on it.
Right.
And this is something about about a dog, and I just I want to make sure that my people know that I'm there, even though they don't see me every day. I relate real estate kind of back to speed dating. Like you're hot to trot with these, like a couple or a buyer or whoever it is, going back and forth about houses and the market and interest rates and all these different things, inspections, and it's this whole thing, right?
Yeah.
And it's like you show up to closing, I give you the basket, and it's ta-ta for now. And that's not really how it is for me. Like I like to do touch base with my clients, or if I'm thinking about them, I'll text them. Like, "Hey, was driving through your neighborhood, thinking about you guys, hope everything's well," or I see a birthday or whatever it is. I just want to be giving.
Yeah.
My clients are the lifeblood of my business, so why not give back to those that help serve me?
Right. Totally.
So
totally. All right. So last question on the list here. It says, "What is your ultimate professional goal, and how do you want to be remembered in the Kansas City real estate scene?"
My ultimate professional goal would be to have a team here in Kansas City. I've always had visions of it being kind of an all-inclusive place, kind of like a brokerage would be, where you have a lender in house and insurance and all these different things, right? But I also want to have a symbiotic brokerage that is serving our clients with staging and all these different things. And of course, there's some big teams out here who are doing these things,
right?
And so I'm not rebuilding the wheel by any means.
Right.
I want to be able to leave a lasting legacy like that. So that way, my name is synonymous with real estate here in Kansas City. One thing that I'm going to strive to do this year as well is make an impact in my hometown. So I've got associated with the MLS in Wichita. I've referred a little bit of business out there over the last few years, and it's one of those things where I just don't want to let that go. I'm going to be very well versed in that market as well. I mean, people talk about how you recharge.
Yeah.
I love real estate, right? And Sheridan can verify this. Her and I talk about real estate a lot. I'll be laying in bed at night and I'll look for the Wichita listings.
Yeah.
Because I want to know what's going on in my old neighborhood where I grew up. I want to know what's going on in that old zip code, or whatever it may be, or what my parents' house is worth, or whatever it may be. So I want to make an impact on this market, but that market as well. Because what I've realized from my time in Wichita over the New Year is that there are agents who are doing kind of what we're doing here in Kansas City, but nobody doing it like me.
Right.
So why not take advantage of a market where I'm well known and have a lot of connections? And don't get me wrong, I plan to be a little bit more listing heavy on that side of things. But like I said, I'd like to have a team here. So maybe when I can't be here, I have somebody to help facilitate with my appointments. Vice versa there. I have infrastructure in place. I have a builder down there. I very well connected with the developers in Wichita as well.
Right.
So why not be able to be a new construction advocate and work on the listing side and have buyers that I can flex to a showing agent.
Right.
That I'm going to be able to oversight, make sure they get the same good experience. But I don't have to necessarily be there 24/7 to make it happen.
Right.
So
Love it. Well, and then bonus round. So what are your personal goals for the next year?
So I need to write them down. I've always been a big proponent of writing my goals down, and for some reason I've written my business plan, but not my personal goals.
Yeah.
So I keep adding to them as I go throughout. So one of them is, of course, health and wellness. I want to be more consistent, or be consistent with going to the gym.
Mm-hmm.
I really want to lean in on the nutritional side this year as well. So went to the grocery store and stocked up. Got to do some meal prep, whatnot.
There you go.
I want to have a little bit more work-life balance this year. I find myself having a lot of anxiety just like at night, like constantly checking my phone. I need to let that go. Like,
Yeah.
I learned from you that I gotta just put it on do not disturb and let it be.
Yeah.
Because after 7, your notifications go off. I forget what time it is, but
9 o'clock.
Yeah,
You're done.
Per our conversation, I can see when your notifications are silenced.
Yep.
So work-life balance. I want to travel this year.
Yeah.
I want to go international this year.
Okay.
I want to live more life this year.
Yeah.
Like I said, I want to be more social. And that part of that is just stepping outside of my comfort zone and getting out of the house on the weekends because I am tired at the end of the week. Or when that's the one thing that gets me about real estate is like, for instance, all of the youths in my life that want to go out and have fun, they want to go out on a Friday or Saturday night. Well, I normally have appointments first thing Saturday morning, or an open house on Sunday, so I can't be hungover, or I can be, but I'm just not going to be as effective as I want to be.
Right.
And I don't want to feel like crap the next day.
Yeah.
And so all these different things, but yeah, I want to be more social. I want to read more books. I want to expand my network. I want to meet new people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think. I had a couple other. I'd really, really, really like to hone in on my finances and buy another investment property.
Love it.
I'm in the process of getting my midterm rental set up right now, so that'll be going live at the end of the week here.
Exciting.
So yeah, I'm moving.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, so I'll be moving. I don't know where yet.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out where that is. It'll probably be end of the month. Mid-March maybe.
Okay.
But yeah, probably looking at Tulane.
Okay.
So I want to go live the city boy lifestyle.
So you'll be our neighbor right over here.
Yeah, I've always lived in the suburbs here in Kansas City, so I want to live downtown and like have that urbanite feel for a year.
Yeah.
I want to start the build process on a house this year.
Okay.
Just
a couple little things.
Lots of big goals. I got to make them happen.
Yeah, so. I love it. Well, I just say, I think we met, it was on my block, and it's funny because I talked about this with Sheridan too. So I met you at that open house on my block.
Yeah, Fairmount.
On Fairmount. And then I'd run into Sheridan here and there, but we really kind of met when you guys did that big open house. At that house, I think it was the week later. So she and Audrey pull up in her car or whatever, and I saw them, and I was like, "Oh, they're doing something over there." And so well, of course, I brought a bottle of bubbles over.
Yes, my broker's open.
Yes.
Okay, so my broker's open. Yeah, we had a taco truck out there. I had people out walking around with free signs, getting free tacos.
Yeah.
I got told by my broker that they've never really had great turnouts to brokers open.
Really?
So you know what's funny? I had 57 people through my broker.
Is that right?
57 people.
That's huge.
And then, of course, of those 57, like, I think like 18 of them were like neighbors or walking through the neighborhood or whatever it may be. So it's like I have 40 agents and then 18 buyers.
Yeah.
That live here in this area that are walking through.
Yeah.
And of course, it was kind of expensive to do a taco truck and refreshments, but it's
so
a vibe.
nice.
Yeah, it's a vibe. it's one of those things where like the agents that were showing up were like, "Oh, you know how to throw a party, like you know how to have a good time." And I'm like, "Yeah, like we had snacks inside, I had candy. Of course, the house was staged beautifully, so it was really pretty to take video content of. And it's in a cool area, right next to a park, and
it's a great neighborhood.
Yeah, I mean, best neighbors on the block. If I have to say it, but it's one of those things where it's like it's a cool neighborhood too. So it's just one of those cool, vibey. I wanted to set the tone and let people know that you're not going to have a better time than me.
Right, exactly.
I'm going to be there with a smile on.
Exactly. So. But yeah, that was a ton of fun. And I'm super glad that you had that
Yeah.
listing because
And
I've never been here.
I actually, it's funny because I used that bottle of champagne that you brought to do a photo shoot with a client.
Did you really?
Well, I was running around that morning and I thought to myself, I had stopped at the liquor store and I looked at my bar card and I was like, okay. I felt bad. It was a bottle of Marca, right?
Yeah, La Marca. It's always La Marca.
Yeah. And I felt bad, but I was like, you know what, this is going to be great for the photos. So
Yeah.
I should have tagged you in that photo.
I love it. I love it. Super. Well, I mean, that's all the questions that I had on my list.
Yeah.
But this was a lot of fun.
Yeah, Ryan, I appreciate you having me. Of course, it's been great to get to know you as well.
Yeah.
I have never met somebody that is so just alive.
Yeah.
Your energy, you have such a vibe.
Well, thank you.
And that's coming from somebody who has a big energy as well. So
Right.
I just want to say that, I feel like we run together well.
I love it. Well, thank you. Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
That was lots of fun. We'll do it again soon.
Yeah. Appreciate you. From the iLoveKC studios.
Here we are. Bye, guys.
See you later.